There's always money in the banana stand. I'm Mr. Manager. Mr. F. Come on! I've made a huge mistake. I love this show. I'm excited to rank all 4 seasons of Arrested Development. How would you rank them? Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of all 4 seasons of Arrested Development. I love this show. I love talking about this show. I'm excited to rank all 4 seasons. Number 1, because we have game night out this week with Jason Bateman, and a great opportunity now to talk about my favorite works from Jason Bateman, which would be him in Arrested Development. So I'm excited to dive into that. But also, number 2, I'm doing this with my good friend Adam over at Almost Sideways. So he and I are doing this together. On his channel, he's releasing his ranking video of all 4 seasons of Arrested Development. So as soon as you've heard me rank it, go ahead and click the link over to his video, which will be in my description. You can go over there and watch how he would rank all 4 seasons of Arrested Development. If you're here right now, because you already watched his ranking of Arrested Development, and he told you to come over here, well then I suppose we better just jump right into this. So let me know in the comments how you would rank Arrested Development. Number 4, Season 4. By far and away, this is my least favorite season of Arrested Development. My good friend, the Cholo Nerd, and I, we are huge fans of Arrested Development. We absolutely love this show. When we heard Netflix was reviving it and bringing us a Season 4, you can't even imagine how excited we were. You can't even imagine how hyped we were. Therefore, you can't even imagine how let down we were when we actually watched it. It just did not feel like Arrested Development. Yeah, sure, as a recipe, the pieces were there. Ron Howard narrating, the same cast was back, same sets and stuff, but it was not Arrested Development. I don't even know how to describe it. There was just a quality that wasn't there. On the one hand, you really never had any of the characters all together, like you did in the show, the Bluth family together under one roof. You had the first half of the season, which was Michael's Arrested Development, George Michael's Arrested Development, Job's Arrested Development, Lucille's Arrested Development. So episodes dedicated to certain characters, and so like the first half of the show, it was all about catching us up. Where have these characters been since this show was canceled way back when, and here we are now. So it's all about catching us up. But then when you get to the second half of the show and we're done being caught up, I didn't even really like the storylines. It was kind of weird to me that George Michael and Michael Bluth were dating the same woman. That was just weird. Tobias's whole adventure with that lady and the Fantastic Four stuff and how he got arrested, I don't know. None of that stuff really stood out to me as anything hilarious. It didn't really add anything to these characters for me. It wasn't my favorite. And I watch Arrested Development pretty regularly on a routine. I have a lot of shows that I kind of go through on a routine that I'll play on Netflix in the background. When nothing else is on, I'll binge through them, or, I'll be working on something and let that play in the background. And I'll run through a whole show and start over. And I got to Arrested Development Season 3, and I just had no desire to carry on with Season 4. So I've only watched Season 4 one time all the way through. But it wasn't all bad. It had great moments like, But you see, this is the problem. With all 3 seasons of Arrested Development, there's something I could pull up that is amazing. I can't do that with Season 4. I just don't have those moments. I didn't absolutely hate Season 4, but it really did not feel like Arrested Development to me. Number 3, Season 3. This is where it gets really hard for me because I love the 3 original seasons of Arrested Development so much. So rather than looking at this as my second least favorite position, let's look at it as the glass half full and say this is my third favorite position because, it's all so good. Season 3 was just fantastic. We had epic things like Mr. F., Charlize Theron, guest starring on Arrested Development, playing a British woman with a mental disability that Michael Bluth never notices because she's really pretty and has a British accent. So because of those 2 things, he never realizes she has a mental disability and falls helplessly in love with her. Actually, I felt really, really bad for Michael when he found out she had a mental disability and he had to break up with her. He was pretty depressed. And he's just been looking for happiness ever since his wife died. My gosh, I feel bad for the guy. But anyway, all of that stuff was it was hilarious. It was done so well. It was brilliant. Tobias Graft versus Host.
He'd found it too painful to part with his new hair.
He got hair grafts so he could be a leading man, so he could be in Job's magic trick, illusion. So he could be in Job's illusion. So he got the hair plugs. But you see, in most cases, the body would reject something like that. Not in this case. In this case, it's the actual plugs themselves. You know, the things that aren't even alive that are rejecting him. It's gold! And then season 3, it being the last season of the show, what was brilliant is when they knew they were canceled, the fun they had with it. Where Michael Bluth and George Bluth Sr. are having a Save Our Bluths Foundation. They're having a Save Our Bluths fundraising party to raise funds to save our Bluths. And George is like, hey, do you think the Home Builders organization could come here? Like the HBO? Do you think we would have a place at the HBO? Nah, I don't know that we'd have a place at the HBO. Okay, then we should probably have a show. Like, it's showtime. Like, I mean, my gosh, the way they had fun with the fact that they were being canceled and mixed that in with their humor. And when season 3 ended and we got the series finale of the show, it is very rare that shows that are this hilarious and this good actually have satisfying endings. And this one I thought had a very satisfying ending until we got a season 4. But let's not talk about that right now. When this show was canceled over a decade ago, this was a very satisfying ending. Number 2, season 1. I loved season 1, but things are probably placed where they're placed on my countdown here because, well, I got introduced to the show on season 2, and that season had me in stitches. But I love season 1, and season 1 is filled with so many great moments. Great introduction to the Bluths, great introduction to the family. I mean, right there in just the first episode, you got the tone and humor of the show with Ron Howard narrating, which was just well written and hilarious. You met each of the Bluths, and you got to see why the show was called Arrested Development, because you're looking at these characters and you're seeing where their development, intelligence-wise, mature-wise, whatever, where their development got arrested and they're just not moving past that point.
This is the magic trick, huh?
Illusion, Michael.
So we got to see like all of their characters, and it's just hilarious. Job is one of my favorite characters, man. I love Job. I also love Buster.
Hey, brother.
Buster cracks me up. Tobias deciding that since, you know, he was a successful psychiatrist, but then he performed CPR on a person who was just napping by the pool and not in any kind of trouble, and I guess broke their sternum, had his medical license revoked or suspended. So now what's he doing? He's deciding he's gonna be an actor. Oh, mate! This isn't a fever! Sing, Gray! Can't even see where the knob is! And then the fact that we bring Carl Weathers into this to be Tobias's acting coach. I learned so many life lessons from that guy.
There's still plenty of meat on that bone. Now you take this home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a potato. Baby, you got a stew going.
If Tobias learned nothing from Carl Weathers, I learned a lot, especially in how to make stews from Carl Weathers. It's kind of weird, though, Buster dating Lucille, too, who is his mother's age and has the same name of his mother. But it's also freaking hilarious. Buster, one of my favorite characters, him dating Lucille too, like he just can't get away from his mother. Oh gosh. You know, sometimes when I watch this show, I just feel horrible for these characters. I really do. Number 1, season 2. Without a doubt, season 2 is my favorite season of Arrested Development. All of my favorite character moments are in season 2. I mean, I love when Tobias auditions for the Blue Man Group. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking the self-help group for depressed guys. No. We're talking the performance group. So he goes and he becomes a member of the Blue Man Group. Well, I guess he doesn't become a member of the Blue Man Group, but he deludes himself into believing that he is a stand-in. So every night he puts blue paint all over himself. And what's hilarious is when you watch this show, just keep looking in the background in season 2. There is blue paint stained everywhere in the most random places. Something else brilliant about this show, they would start a running gag before the gag. For instance, Buster, who was signed up to join Army by his mom, Lucille, thought he had escaped to Mexico, and his mom had given up his hand chair over to, her housemaid. So he goes over there, and there's his hand chair. And he's like, oh, I never thought I'd miss a hand so much. Buster gets his hand bitten off by a loose seal. A loose seal. A loose seal.
Lucille! Watch out for Lucille!
They started the no hand joke, I never thought I'd miss a hand so much, before he loses his hand. So when I went back and I watched the season a second time through, and he goes, I never thought I'd miss a hand so much, I was freaking cracking up like you wouldn't believe. I can't believe they had the running gag before the gag actually started. And so when you go back and you watch Arrested Development and you see them include things like that even before you get to the gag, it's just freaking amazing. My other favorite thing with Tobias, Mrs. Featherbottom. Oh my gosh. Where he wanted to prove to Lindsay after she separated from him that he was a fantastic actor and he wanted to be with his daughter. I think my favorite Mrs. Featherbottom moment is that moment where he's up on the upper balcony of the house and he wants to enchant Maybe, thinking he's going to float down and crashes through the glass table. I'm sorry. That moment has me every dang time. There were so many great moments in Arrested Development Season 2. It's unreal. I don't know. If you have Netflix and you've never checked out Arrested Development, I gotta say, I find it pretty hilarious, with the exception of Season 4. Maybe skip to the last episode because good cliffhanger for Season 5 when that gets here. But that's pretty much all you're gonna need because I don't know. I did not have a blast with that one. But you, what did you think of Arrested Development? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian and hit the bell next to that subscribe button. That way you're notified the next time I drop a ranking video, a movie review, a theological analysis. Tomorrow, dropping a theological analysis on the MCU's Black Widow with Red Sparrow coming out here real soon. I thought there was a familiar theme there between these two movies, so I thought it would be awesome to talk about Black Widow and do an awesome theological analysis about that. And don't forget, check out my good friend Adam's channel, Almost Sideways, and check out his ranking of all 4 seasons of Arrested Development and let him know how you would rank them. And tell him Durbin sent you. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.